There's a far-off town in the middle of nowhere that not a lot of people know about. A town so small and out of the way, you might just miss it if you don't look closely. That town is known as Highland Point. We move into town as small game dealers, but work our way into controlling entire empires, managing supply, scheduling workers, and booting out competition. But once we're done here, everyone will either be dead or have symptoms so bad you couldn't even recognize them as human. What pushes us this far? How do we do it, and what does this mean for the destruction and inevitable doomsday of Highland Point? All those questions will be answered in today's video. For those of you who don't know, Schedule 1 has released on Steam and has shot to the top of all the charts, currently being second on Steam in terms of player count and the #1 highest selling game. But before we get into that, if we hit 1,000 likes on this video, I'll post some bunny pictures on my community tab, so make sure to subscribe, and as soon as I hit that goal, those pics will be posted and you'll see it on your home tab. I thought I'd try a little something different than my usual Left 4 Dead content, so please let me know down in the comment section below what you guys think about this theory. But enough rambling, let's jump straight into it. To understand how we caused the destruction of Highland Point, and more specifically why, we need to take a look at the prologue of the game. It's a pretty simple tutorial that teaches you the basics of growing weed and dealing, but there's more under the hood. You leave the RV and speak to your uncle Nelson, who asks you to pick some stuff up in town. Since you got a deal in town as well, you oblige. So you bring your packaged weed and jump into the truck as you make your way into town. When you eventually arrive into town, you deal some weed with 3 different people and give a sample to the 4th. You head to the local store and pick up some supplies for the ranch. Last thing you gotta do is meet up with Nelson's contact, so that's what you do. Outside the motel, they give you some trouble about Nelson owing them some money, but they give you the goods nonetheless. And while in town, there's a chance the police could search you when you're near the store, and if you get searched, one of the officers mentioned you got off clean this time, but oddly admits knowing something about the ranch. You think nothing of it, hop back into your car, and make your way towards the ranch. You get home, give Nelson his order, and plant the seed you got, and fall asleep after a long, hard day of dealing. You awake to see flashing lights of the police cars and hear sirens blaring. You dash towards the front of the RV and drive towards the nearest city, Highland Point. While being a pretty simple tutorial, one thing that stands out to me is the arrival of the police. There's no warning, no announcing they have a warrant. They seem to just show up and bust our operation, almost as if someone ratted us out. But who could it be? Who are the suspects? My mind first went to Nelson's contact at the motel. They seemed pretty mad and even threatened us, but there are a few discrepancies. They complained about how Nelson owed us money, so why would they rat us out? They couldn't get their money if we got arrested, and contacting the police would also put some heat on their operation, so this idea gets shot down pretty quick. It could be a disgruntled citizen in town, annoyed that our product wasn't good, or it could have been the girl we let sample some product since we didn't really know her. But with the lack of any concrete evidence, I can't definitively say it was either of them. More likely, I think it was just the police. After all, the officer admits to knowing something shady is going on at the ranch. However, how did they get this information? This question still stands. Whether or not someone tipped them off, they showed up fairly quickly, being only that night. So it could have been that they just found out on their own. It seems as if we or Nelson could have been in the eye of the law for some time. But either way, we're forced off the ranch and forced to begin anew. As we make our way to Highland Point, we park our RV in the backwoods near town. A mysterious man contacts us and we find out it's just Nelson, and for the rest of the game he'll speak to us over the payphones scattered around town. He mentions that he has some cash stashed around the area, which we retrieve. Once we hit all the stashes, we make our way back to the RV, although on the way there, tragedy strikes. A giant explosion goes off in the backwoods and we make our way towards the RV. We see, however, unfortunately, it's been destroyed. In the rubble lies a note attached to a piece of scrap. The note says, "Welcome to Highland Point. This is our territory. Don't interfere." Signed, TB. All the events that have taken place up until this point serve as the motive and reason for the Empire will create. However, once again, I think there's something more. Right as we drive into Highland Point, we make our way off the freeway, and the game tells us we only know one way to make money: time to get to work. but I believe our character is motivated for far deeper reasons than just losing the ranch. On top of losing the ranch, we got all our stuff blown up by the people of this town. And need I remind you of the uncertainty of the people in the last town? And although we don't have any major proof of the people in the last town ratting out the ranch, from the perspective of the main character, it doesn't matter. In their eyes, the people betrayed them, and now it's time for revenge. To deal so much drugs, there'll be nothing left. However, unlike the ranch, there will be no restrictions, no care at all, not just simple weed. We're striving for the deadliest of drugs. Nothing but a bunch of walking radioactive people and black gingers. Make as much money off the people, our only goal. After the RV incident, the player is left with little to nothing and really has to put in effort and work to get their name out there. When you're at the bottom, there's nowhere else to go but up. By following Nelson's instructions, we're able to rent a room at the local motel, and by buying supplies at the local hardware store, we can begin production. However, there's an issue, that being supply. We need a way to get weed seeds. No need to worry though, because Papa Nelson knows a supplier and he hooks you up. Now the empire begins. Slaving away at the motel is hard work, but eventually the player saves up enough money to buy the apartment above the Chinese restaurant owned by a lady named Ming, who, let's just say, likes the product. Once the player officially moves into the apartment above Ming's restaurant, the production steadily increases, and for a couple weeks that's where you'll end up staying. Buying more growing stations so you can harvest more yield, and gaining access to the mixing station, which will allow you to create the deadliest of products. And at this point of the game, the player has a lot of freedom, and you can pretty much do whatever you want, only being restricted by your wallet. Eventually you'll need a dealer to help you with selling your product. After all, you're the boss, you can't be the only one slinging dope. This is where contacts are useful. By getting close with either Chloe, Ludwig, or Beth, the player gains access to Benji, the first dealer. Alongside giving Benji extra product, the player might want to hold on to the more expensive product, as Benji takes a 20% cut of all the sales. So selling the really good stuff yourself will go a long way. To strike the people where it hurts and gain access to better mixing ingredients, the player makes their way to Gasmart, and by gaining XP through dealers and your own selling, the player can level up their street cred and unlock items all throughout the city. You become so wealthy that you can now buy an actual house across the bridge from Ming's restaurant. Once there, you get access to more space, allowing you to expand your operation. Around this point of the game, you also run into a problem at the ATMs. There's a limit on how much you can deposit in order to not raise suspicion. This means you must buy a business to clean your cash for you, so that's what you do, beginning at the local laundromat. By continuing with the main questline, the player will gain access to the warehouse, which allows you to buy illegal items like firearms and aid in the production of newer drugs like meth and cocaine, which you get access to by speaking to new suppliers. But remember, all of this is an effort to make the most deadliest of substances. The people want product, that's what they'll get. My favorite mixture of weed is called the white bud. First, you grow some OG Kush, the base weed you start the game with. Then you buy cough syrup from Gasmart, as well as those white pills and Viagra, the blue ones. Then you mix them in that order, giving you multiple different products before you eventually land on the white bud. That's what I've been personally using to poison the citizens, and it also turns them into black gingers. A truly interesting side effect, but what makes it really good is the fact that it sells really well and it's super addictive. Instead of selling all my customers OG Kush, I'll instead persuade them into buying white bud. Because it's so expensive, I get a lot more money, and because it's so addictive, the people come crawling back like ants, blowing up my phone again and again, wanting some more product. There's only a few things left to do, not in terms of content, but in terms of our goal. Now that all the citizens are addicted, we just want to create drugs with deadly side effects. They won't know what hit them since they've been addicted for so long and can't go without their fix. Heck, people even run up to my house if I don't contact them in order to see if I have anything left. Increase your sphere of influence by talking to people and unlocking more customers, and theoretically, overnight, you could make the deadly product we're hoping for, selling it the next day, killing everyone in town. Now, to be clear, this is just a theory. I don't actually know if you can just sell things to people and have them die. I could see issues with this being a game mechanic. However, if this were a real town, that's what I believe our main character would do, and if our influence were to reach worldwide, it would effectively cause a doomsday event. finally getting our revenge on the people who wronged us through the very products they crave. What does that mean for Highland Point and the rest of the world? I went over this a little bit previously, but with our theoretical drug we could slaughter thousands if not millions. Our only limit would be distribution. We would need some way to transport this miracle drug across the country. If we were to get that far, one solution would be to have a single person in every major city along the world. One solution would be to have a single person in every major city around the world that knows this recipe for our special drug. Make and distribute it at the same time. World governments wouldn't know what hit them, and before they even know what's happening, bodies of thousands of chronics line the streets. And only then will people understand what they've done to our main character. And only then will they know what it means to be a true chronic. Let's say for a second, let's entertain the idea that there's rival dealers that have been copying our products up until this point. If we assume they somehow get access to this special recipe, they'll be distributing exactly what we want without putting in any effort. And with minimal information on side effects, they would distribute it without a second thought. Honestly, who would stop this operation? I assume Highland Point has the highest amount of security in all the United States due to the high drug population. Even though there's an incredible amount of security, we're somehow able to create a massive empire without the government even catching on. Sure, here and there they might confiscate a few products, but with the amount of manpower and product we can move, their efforts won't matter. These suppliers who enabled us with this product will have to watch as those around them perish as a direct consequence of enabling us. After all, we're nearly a world superpower at this point. Small communities could retaliate if they realize quickly enough what's happening, but with the amount of revenue our operation would have generated, I doubt any uprisings would do much damage. At this point, all my staff in Highland Point and around the world would be armed to the teeth and prepared to defend themselves and their work. Think of our product as a virus. In the beginning, it can't be too deadly because then it won't spread, word won't get out, and nobody would hear about it. But if you start super addictive and get someone interested, then immediately switch up the recipe into something deadly, they'd be none the wiser. This is my ultimate Schedule 1 doomsday event. So to wrap everything up and summarize it, we as the player start with some small game in a ranch with our uncle. Either with the help of the community or not, the police bust our operation, filling us with the initial resentment towards those who we tried to make happy with our product. Just in time, we're able to escape the ranch in the RV and flee to Highland Point. Once we arrive in Highland Point, we scavenge some scrap and we get our RV blown up, which finally installs revenge into our character. Enough hatred to create the biggest drug empire known to man, eventually leaving Highland Point and reaching all the way around the globe into other countries. And once we have a chokehold on the majority of the population, our plan commences. We switch from giving the people everyday normal drugs to stuff that'll kill them quickly. In the wake of our destructions, thousands, even millions could die. And at the end of this, our character takes a nice sip of cuke and watches the sun set as those who wronged us perished beneath us. This is my Schedule 1, the Doomsday Theory. I took what is possible in the game and combined it with hypothetical events like spreading around the world. I doubt a giant update like that would ever come out into the actual game, but if we're discussing this, like what could happen in the actual universe, it's a pretty interesting topic. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget, if we hit 1,000 likes, I'll post those baby bunny pictures on my community tab. Subscribe and let me know down in the comments below what you guys thought about this theory. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget, if we hit 1,000 likes, I'll post those baby bunny pictures on my community tab. Subscribe and let me know down in the comments below what you thought of this theory. And do you guys have any theories of your own you'd like me to possibly make in a future video? Let me know, but as always, have a nice rest of your day. Peace out.